Hey guys, how are you? In this video, we're going to talk about how to create an additional domain controller. So we do that usually to have two domain controllers, that means two servers on our network. Those two servers will both of them do the same job. Both of them will have the domain controller and they will be parallel together. So in case one of them get crash or one of them get hacked or overload, the other one will carry on and will work fine. Now, the additional domain controller is additional server. So that means I have to have additional server. So in my case here in our example, that means we have to create a new VM. But in the real life, it will be additional server machine that we're going to install here. So for us, we have to create a new virtual machine. To get that new virtual machine, we can either create a new virtual machine or we can import one from the one that we exported on the computers. And there is a video about this. You can watch it on how to import the VM. In general, I will just go grab the VM from the VM location. It is on the C drive, exported VMs, the servers. I'll grab that VM. Next. I'm going to create it as a new copy of the VM. So I will get fresh VM. I will save it here under VMs. I'll create a new folder. I will call it DC2-new-additional. So I will try to remember the name. You can name it whatever you want, but this is what I'm going to name it. Then duplicate the copy paste in the 3 places and the 4 places. That will import the VM for me. We'll come back once it's done. So I have my VM ready here for me. I can start using it now. So I'll just need to rename it. So I will give it another name. I decided to name it DC-new. So it will look next to my new DC immediately, but I will call it additional. And without the number 2 here. So that way it looks next to my domain right away. So I'll open that additional domain controller. It's a server, normal server. I'll get it up and running. Now, in order for this to work fine, I have to have my domain controller up and running the other VM. So I will keep my my original server is running. It is here running. So I'll keep it on the side of the screen and we'll work on the additional domain controller. So I logged into the additional domain controller. Good. Same name, password 1. Good. The steps of doing the domain controller is exactly the same steps of doing the domain controller. The first one, just with a small difference between the additional and the default one. So first of all, I have to set up my time zone and I have to set up my IP address and I have to set up my PC name. So the same 3 steps. So here is my time zone. I'm going to change the zone to the +3 Kuwait Riyadh. Done. I'm going to change my IP address. Good. So to depend on my IP address range, now I get that from my original server. I can't remember my IP address now. So I look at my IP address here on my original server, and my IP address is 192.168.20.2. So when I come here, I will say 192.168.20.3. Then the subnet mask, then the default gateway 192.168.20.1. This is my default network on my network. The DNS here, I don't put 127. I'll put the server, the DNS, the domain controller 192.168.20.2. Good. Until I set up the domain server here, the DNS here, and then set it up there, then I can use the duplicate between them. But right now, I don't read them. So here is the IP address configuration. Click OK. Click OK. Close it. I have to change the computer name. Good. So the computer name, you have to follow the naming convention that you have in your part. In my domain, the domain name is like ODE-DC1. That's what I decided to name them when I was doing it. So I will just call it ODE-DC2. Good. I don't join it to the domain now. I wait until I set up the additional domain controller. It will join the domain by itself. I click OK. It will ask me to restart. After restart, everything will be fine. We'll come back after restart. So my server is back up and running now, and I'm looking at it here. The IP address has been configured right. The DC2 is there and the computer there. Then I have to add the role. Good. Same steps as the normal server when you're adding the role, nothing different. Adding the role, base role. Next, I will add the domain, active domain controller with its roles, and I will add the DNS because, as I said, I will set up the DNS in a later stage today or later next class. Next, 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 next. Good. And once done, finish. Good. It's finishing the setup now. We'll come back later. So the server finish adding the role, close. Then I'll go here and I promote my server to a domain controller. When I do this, the steps are standard steps. Just let me get them here so I can get them full screen. So the first option here, the first screen, in our first domain setup, we choose add a new forest because that was a new domain forest that we are building. In this example, we will say add a domain controller to an existing domain. Good. Then in this step, he will tell me what is your domain. So here I give him my domain number. So it's ode.local. Good. Here he will ask me for what is the administrator password that you will use to log into the Ode domain controller. Good, because you need an administrator account. In order for this machine to join the domain, it needs an administrator account to join the domain. So here I click change. I'll give him the administrator account. So a-Hassan password 1. Good, I can use the administrator account. I can use a-Hassan. I can use a-Mido. Any of them. Good. Next. Oops, sorry, my mistake. Change. When you type the username, you cannot type odedc2. You have to type the full domain name. So it's ode.local slash, you see, now the domain name is the right. Then I will type a-Hassan. And then I will do password 1. You have to give the domain name. Otherwise, he was looking for Hassan. He was looking for the account on this computer. Good. So it's a domain account. Now it says domain account here. Next. He's searching for the domain. The same option. Good. It's a domain name server. He will get it. It's a global DNS. Read only. This is if you want to create something read only domain controller, just to read the data, not to actually modify it for some reason. Good. And now here I will do password 1 as usual. Password 1 as usual. Here he is asking me what's the site name. If I'm having multiple sites, I'll keep it on the default site for now. Next. Update the DNS delegation. If I want to modify the DNS delegation, we'll leave it now. We'll talk about DNS in different class. Next. Good. In this option, it's asking me if I want to duplicate my domain controller, meaning if I already have another domain controller with multiple settings and multiple configuration, I can just select it from here and says make exact copy from that one as it is right now with all the settings. Or I can do it fresh. For now, I will leave it. I don't want to duplicate. I'll just get it as a fresh. Next, the log files and the details of the log files. Done. Done. That's it. Now it's installing the domain controller. If we get an error message, I will show you, but I'll take about 10-15 minutes to finish and then restart. Now I got this error saying that the verification wasn't right, which means that the username and the password that I used wasn't right. I think my a-Hassan is not added to the enterprise admin group, so I have to fix that later on. So now I will tell him ode.local /administrator. So I'll use the administrator account, not this administrator. Password 1. Good. I'll go through the steps again. Let's see if we now get better situation. So after I use the administrator, it's working now, no problem. And I click install, it will start installing. When it's finished installing, it will restart the machine as usual. Good. So now the domain controller or the additional domain controller is ready. And you can just simply treat it the same way you treat your original domain controller. All the things are almost the same. You will have, you don't, it's not like you are creating a new domain. It is the same exact domain, the same exact settings. All your group policy, all your settings, all your options are still exactly the same. It's just as if you are having another version or another copy of your domain controller. So in case one of them crash, the other one is still alive. It has a lot of applications like in disaster recovery, they have it. It's business continuity, so they do that. So in case one of them break, the other one keep going on, and all these other options and the workload and the other settings. So this is how you create additional domain controller. I'm just waiting for it to finish loading, and then I can show you that it has the same options. So now it's ready. So now it's ready, it's working. If I go to the tool menu, if I click on users and computers, it load up. It's the same exact domain, the same exact group, the same exact user. It's just another machine that working on the same domain. If I create something here within few seconds, it will be on the other machine and everything should be fine and things will be working with no problem at all. So this is how we create additional domain controller. Good. Now we just set it up and created it. That's it. I'm going to shut it down. I don't need to use it anymore for this exercise at least. Thank you.